Master Trooper Brandon Baker with the North Carolina Highway Patrol. Trooper Baker, so kind of you to join us this morning. I know you're staying home and off the roads, which is probably what everybody else should do as well.
Right. Good morning, Tracy and Eric. Absolutely. If folks can stay at home, if at all possible, that's what we recommend anytime there's weather like this that we're having to deal with. But fortunately, this system coming in on a Sunday, I guess, is kind of convenient where folks are already at home off of work and school and things like that. So there's not already an additional traffic volume to deal with like it would be if it was on a weekday.
Well, despite this being a weekend event, Trooper Baker, we've seen hundreds of crashes across the Triad alone, not even the state. So obviously some people are not heeding to the warning, but it's not too late to get that point across.
Absolutely. Earlier this morning, as we're a little before 7, our area in Troop D, which is Randolph, Guilford, Rockingham, and a few counties to the east, we only had about 15 crash calls. But, over the past hours or so, we've seen an increase in that. But more than anything, folks, it's just simply stuck or stranded, things like that. But that's completely preventable if they didn't have to be on the road to begin with.
Yeah, and this isn't going to let up anytime soon, even though it's falling a little bit more light than it was earlier. So as we head into the night, and we're not going to get above freezing today, we don't think. Do you typically see, in these type situations where everybody knows that we've gotten a lot of snow, where it may get worse with a little ice mixed in and then refreezing, do you typically see that people start heating it after a day or so of this, or will it get worse before it gets better?
Well, I think for the most part, as days go on, maybe cabin fever sets in with folks that are maybe off from work and whatnot. But, the coming days, as this snow and ice begins to melt and refreeze, we're going to have to deal with black ice and things like that, even if it's not an enormous amount of accumulation in certain areas. But folks just need to be mindful of that and kind of anticipate that when they're out and about in the coming days.
Yeah, so that's something we have to look forward to. Something that happened just a few moments ago was something we witnessed right here on the Good Morning Show. A car that was struggling to get off an on-ramp off of I-40 onto South Elm Eugene, and we saw that driver kind of frantically working to get out of that spot. What is the best way to handle that type of situation? Should you get out of the car and leave it? Should you call IMAP? Should you call Highway Patrol? What do you do?
In an instance where folks are just stranded or stuck in the middle of the road, oftentimes we see just a good Samaritan come along and they help one another out. So oftentimes that's the case in some of these situations. But if not, if they're just simply stuck or stranded, it's best and will be most efficient in getting their vehicle out of the way if that person will go ahead and contact a towing service on their own instead of calling 911 and waiting for that call to be routed either to a local police department or the Highway Patrol, and then for those folks to have to respond and take additional amounts of time because our response time will be impacted significantly once folks need help.
That's really important to note here, not to call 911 in this situation, because that would have been my first guess is I need help, call 911. And so you're saying call Star HP instead?
Well, yes, they can still call that. We're not saying for folks to not call that, but if they're just simply stuck in the road and they just need to get a tow truck, that's probably the quickest way instead of having to wait for a trooper or another police officer to arrive and then to call a tow truck. Because, like I say, we're limited on what we can do in that regard.
Thank you, Trooper Baker. We appreciate you taking time out. We know you're working remotely from the house today, so good luck to you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll check